I am so mad right now that I believe I have smoke coming out of my ears while my poor fiancé is trying his best to boost my mood. Anyways, I just came from my father's house and had a massive spat with my evil Cinderella core stepmom. My mother, Fernanda, passed away when I was 12, and it sucked like hell. Cancer. I was depressed for more than a year, and my father, Jim, spent almost all of this time taking care of me. I was closer to my mother than my dad, somewhere after she died, and he took care of me. We got close. I'd say a lot closer, and he became my rock, and I became his in some sort of way. Anyways, Mom passed away and Dad and I got depressed until one day, suddenly our lives were blessed with an angel, Kelly. Yeah, note the sarcasm. Anyways, well, a long story short, my father and her started to date. Yeah, it sucked, having a new woman in the house taking my mother's place. I sucked it up because of my dad. He seemed happy after a really long time, and I just wanted to support him no matter what. It was weird seeing her in the house, but she kept out of my business, so apart from a few awkward instances, we were fine. My relationship with Kelly was surprisingly amicable, and to a point like friends. But unfortunately, she was just a snake wrapped up in a gift box. By the time my father was preparing to leave, I had warmed up to her, and was quite comfortable having her around. I even helped set up the proposal with Kelly's sister, and did photography for them. It was a very bittersweet moment, and we all laughed and hung out together afterwards. But as soon as we got home, things changed, and it was as if a switch was flipped, and Kelly was a whole new person. She did a total 180 after her engagement with my father, and well, to sum it up, it made my life hell. My depression returned tenfold, and I went from being an eager teenager to an insecure, absolute mess. I don't want to bore you with the details, but on the night of my engagement, I slept at my friend's place, and when I came back, Kelly was waiting for me. She held a cup of coffee, and I was weirded out a bit, but then I thought that she would ask me to be her bridesmaid. However, I was far from the truth because the next thing I knew, she was asking me to move out of my room because she needs it for her art studio. Kelly used to paint as a way to express her emotions and was using the spare room for her expedition. She toyed with the idea of using my room a while ago, but father shut her down. I won't lie, my room was big, and it's better. I had a large window facing the sunset along with a roof light, and when she said that, I basically laughed at her and said that I liked my room the way it was. Not to mention, I had recently redecorated it and was now in love with it. But she just ran her hands on my hair and said it was what my father wanted and she needed. I can't remember her whole speech, but art is a way for her to be happy. Then my father is content too. So I swallowed down my emotions and just agreed for her to get my room. I moved slowly by the following week, but I never really discussed it with Dad. The spare room did not have any natural light, nor was it that big, but I just managed to get it there. I mean, I was a bit resentful, but I just put it up and chalked it down to making a compromise and not acting like a teenager. Little did I know it was just the beginning. She made my life an absolute nightmare. I mean, hell. She destroyed pictures of my mother, disrespected her memory, and ruined my stuff. And just overall insulted me at any chance she got. It was so bad that at one point I wanted to harm myself, just because I simply could not bear it. Anyways, I don't have a lot of time to go down that path, but things got so bad between me and her that at one point my father decides to choose between his wife and daughter. Well, unfortunately, he chose his wifey poo over his newly turned adult daughter. Imagine my surprise when I came back home and was accused of stealing her necklace. Yup, my father gave it to her as a wedding gift, and she kept it in a safe, only wearing it on special occasions to flaunt it. And one day I came back from work, and as soon as I entered, my father starts to scream at me, asking how could I do this. I was confused and tried to calm him. I saw Kelly crying in the corner while her sister was consoling her. My father was out of control and I couldn't handle it. So I start crying as well, and my boyfriend at the time, Abe, dropped me off, but when he heard the commotion, he rushed inside. Dad starts to scream at him too, and it was so overwhelming that he got out of control. I begged Abe to leave because it felt like Dad would hit him in anger, but he insisted on staying. However, when Kelly saw that, she stood up and started referring to me as a thief. I asked what the heck she meant, and then she pulled out her necklace and accused me of stealing it to take revenge. I literally laughed at her and told her why would I ever even try to steal her necklace when it was the ugliest piece of garbage. She starts crying even harder, and my dad and her sister scolded me for being inconsiderate. I then turned to Dad and said that Kelly had gotten insane because me stealing her things are absurd. I recalled everything she did with me for the past 3 years, hoping that he'll listen to me for once, but when I saw his eyes, I knew I had lost him forever. Dad kicked me out. I couch surfed until my Aunt Linda called me to Turkey for a fresh start. I know that I'm skimming over a lot of facts here, but as I said, it's a tough issue for me. I still have trouble coping with what happened. But it all turned out in the end because I met my now fiancé Omer. Well, I met him there, and he was charming and sweet, not to mention extremely talented and very, very hot. I got lucky in that regard, and when he proposed, I posted him online. For context, I believed in keeping things private, so I kept my relationship low. That's why when I posted about my engagement, my father finally remembered that he has a daughter. He reached out through my aunt, who refused to convey his message. But considering he has been persistent for now 6 months, she agreed. Omer said that he would support me no matter what, and Linda said that I'd be the best if I got some closure. So I replied back. My father sounded so weird, I don't know, almost too cold and tired. I was reserved and only made small talk, and finally at the end of the call, he said that he wants to reconnect. I asked him what made him come back, and he said that he realized he made a mistake and wanted to get back into my life. I was hesitant and said that I would think about it, and I did. I thought about it and talked to my therapist and my fiancé, and they all said that there was some unresolved trauma, and maybe it was best for me to give him a chance. So I replied that we could have contact, and as per my fiancé's request, I said I would like to take the relationship slow. He agreed, but I could sense that he was sad about it. Anyways, guys, one thing led to the other, and he invited us to have dinner with him. My fiancé and I had already moved back to the States at this point, so we agreed. However, I told him explicitly that I only wanted to have dinner with him, not anybody else, and he tried to protest, but when I threatened to cut contact, he agreed. However, he flipped everything because as soon as I entered the house, I saw Kelly standing in the hallway. She had this weird, full, bright smile on her face that honestly creeped me the heck out. All their comments, her actions, her manipulation, it came rushing back to me. Omer held my hand and said, "Let's leave, baby." Well, I wanted to. I really wanted to, and I wanted to leave and never see her again, but then again, I wanted to show her how happy I was and how her actions did not affect me. Not anymore. So I went inside with my head held high. It was so weird coming back to that house. It was, the same, but different. My pictures were nowhere to be seen and were now replaced with Kelly's pathetic attempt at painting. Let's just say I learned a few things about color coordination in fashion school, and whatever atrocity was happening in my father's living room was not at all fashion. I greeted Kelly with a simple nod, while Omer totally ignored her. But you see, Kelly is like a grapevine that grows on trees, ultimately eating its nutrients. And just like I thought, she clung to Omer as if she had known him for years. She complimented him on his body, his hair, his skin color, saying that he looked just like us. Omer ignored her so badly that I think I fell in love with him even more. I mean, she was doting over Omer while my father was watching her with a weird look upon his face. At some point, Omer went out to get something from the car, and my father and I were talking. Knowing Kelly, something fell off, and I went to look for my fiancé when I found Kelly hugging him while he was awkwardly prying her off his hip. Something snapped at me, and I screamed at her to get off my fiancé. She was startled, and my father asked what she was doing. She stammered, and that's when Omer spoke up. He said she was telling him about how much of a brat I was when I was a teenager, and it was her who tolerated me. Talk about guts. Guys, I saw red, and before she could say another word, I splashed my glass of wine on her face. Omer came to my aid immediately and stopped me before I punched that. Well, let's not call names here. Anyways, that's when we left, more like Omer dragged me out. And I told my dad I would never see her again, and that included at my wedding, and if he wants to have a relationship with me, he'll come alone. My father opened his mouth to protest, but I ignored him, and my fiancé took me back home. Now, I'm sort of feeling bad about losing my temper, but I've seen her manipulation of so many people around me, including my dad, and I won't let that happen to my fiancé. That frigid old jerk can go, well, jump off a bridge. She doesn't have a lot of power over me, so let's see what she does next. But unlike the last time, I'm a grown adult and I can fight back, so game on, Kelly. Update number 1 week later. So, I got a few interesting DMs and comments that my fiance and I had an absolute blast reading. Just to clarify, number 1, no, I'm not lying when I say I made my own life away from home. I did struggle for a few years, but I had my Aunt Linda to fall back on, and the trauma of abandonment really pumped up my hard-working streak. Number 2, no, I don't have issues with my dad dating, and it's not a made-up story. It's my life, and as shy as it is, I just came here to vent, and yeah, I was ready for another woman in my dad's life. I just didn't want an evil woman. And finally, yes, I did skip over a few facts before, because frankly, as much as I try to act tough, bringing up the instances is still hard for me. When we both got to the hotel, we had dozens of calls and texts from Dad. He wanted us to come back and apologize for what I did, and I had a good laugh and completely ignored the messages. That is, until my father called my fiancé and asked him to knock some sense into me. It's safe to say that I had a fight with him on the call. He kept bringing the same old crap up over and over again, and we went in circles. He wants me to apologize to Kelly for spilling wine on her, disrespecting her, and not treating her as my mom. I screamed back at my day that she was not my mom, and I had a mother once, but she died. And if he ever asks me again, I'll cut contact. Omer ended the call there, and I spent the rest of my night crying in his arms. The next day, Aunt Linda sent a screenshot of a story posted by my dearest stepmother about me. Apparently, I'm an entitled brat who's making her father's life hell by just existing. She posted a 5-minute rant on the interwebs about me and ended it with the most, some peace-loving quote, which we all know is crap. I had a good laugh at it, and I wanted to leave it at that, but my father's previous night call infuriated me. So I sent him the screenshots. Then I sent him a passive-aggressive text asking him to control his wife, or else I would air out my side of the story, and we would see if people side with him or me after learning he kicked me out at the tender age of 18. Well, I think that got to him, because the post was taken down after an hour. But you see, that's not the end of this crazy drama. Omer gets another text from a cryptic account that he did not open first, but when he did it, he came straight to me and showed me the chat. Guys, I need bleach in my eyes. But guess what? There's a picture of my stepmom in a bikini. She sent a thirst trap to my fiancé. The poor guy was scared and disgusted that I thought he was actually going to faint. He kept reassuring me that he did not give her absolutely at all any signal or any sort of anything that night. He kept reassuring me that he did not give her anything. I believed him. I mean, come on, because I had seen this happen before. Well, you bet. I forwarded the message to Father, and I've yet to receive a reply from him, but I know that he has seen it. I'm not gonna lie, I wish this would be the final nail in the coffin for him to leave her. I can't believe after all this I'm saying this, but I miss my father. Anyways, I'll keep you updated because this saga, I know this is not the end of it. Update number 2. 1 month later. Oh boy, do I have an update for you. Spoiler alert, it gets messy. Messier than trying to seduce my fiancé. So, our wedding prep has started, and that includes a family dinner. I was hesitant to invite Father, but seeing how Omer's father was coming all the way from Turkey, I called him and specifically told him not to bring his wife. I was expecting some protests, but you know what? He agreed and said he would make sure to come alone and keep Kelly away. I then sent him an invitation to the dinner. I mean, I was nervous on D-Day, but when I saw my father alone, I could finally breathe. The rest of the dinner went smoothly, and I was having fun until I saw the one who must not be named marching down towards us. Thank God the security was already informed of her, and they stopped her even before she could enter the place and disturb us. I went to my father and told him about Kelly. His face went pale upon hearing about her, and he practically ran towards us. I went to get Omer and my aunt, and by the time I went outside to check on them, they were nowhere to be found. Confused, I came back and texted my father, letting him know how much I appreciated him coming to the dinner, and I asked him to meet with him urgently. My gut was screaming at me that something was up and fishy with my father and Kelly. He didn't reply to me like he usually did, but an unknown number texted me and said, Stay away from her husband, or I won't like the consequences. No doubt, it was Kelly. I had a good laugh at the text, and the next day I went to Dad's place to talk to him. Surprisingly, he opened the door and put it bluntly. He looked like crap, as if he had not slept last night, and he tried to deflect my question when I asked him about his health. But I'm also his daughter, and I'm aware of his lying tactics. I pointed it out, and he broke down and starts to cry. It felt like deja vu to see him breaking down on the kitchen island, and he just opened up. He said that he regrets what he did every day. Kelly lied to him and told him that I've done this before too. She was constantly telling him lies about me, how I behaved poorly in front of her group of friends, and how I ruined my mother's dress and took her name, how I broke the painting and flooded the attic to paint her as an evil stepmother. Before I took my complaints to my father, she had already told him false narratives, which made me look like I was the one in the wrong. He was crying so badly that I had to hold him. He said he tries to contact them, but no one gave him any answers because Kelly was sabotaging everything. He realized Kelly's behavior when she starts lying about Mom and Dad's old friend Marcia. See, Marcia only visited once, but in that meeting, Kelly told so many lies to my father that he ended his friendship with her. There, Marcia told him the truth, and it planted a seed of doubt right then and there, and then he noticed a pattern. Whenever he would get close to someone, Kelly would have problems with it, and suddenly there would be a worse person in the world. He realized it soon enough and wanted to apologize to me and get me back, but he was ashamed. He finally apologized to me and begged me to forgive him. I was crying at this point. I told him my side of the story, and he said in his words, "I trust you, kid." Kelly was nowhere to be seen, and that's why we were able to have such an open discussion. But when we heard her car pull up, my dad suddenly got all stiff. He was scared, and seeing him so vulnerable like that, I jumped into action. Kelly starts to scream as soon as she enters the house, and I saw my father just recoil. When she was done, I asked my dad to come with me. He was hesitant, obviously, but I think our talk made him realize something, so I left that godforsaken house again, but this time with my father. Right now, he's staying with me and Omer. I think he's having second thoughts, especially after Kelly went public, airing out lies and betraying him as the bad guy. My dad has always been very image conscious, and seeing him so stuck over his wife's action is hitting me hard. I know some of you will say he deserved it, but I saw my father break apart in front of my eyes twice. He's been quiet ever since he came here, but I can see how broken he is. I'm not heartless, I still love him more than anything, and I'll get him help that he needs. Update number 3. 6 months later, this is the final update of the story. Hey guys, it's me. So, good news first, my my husband, we finally got married. It was an interracial wedding and we had a blast. If you guys need a suggestion, do try Turkish food. It's absolutely amazing. My in-laws are great and we get along swell. Secondly, my father walked me down the aisle and took tons of photos. He's now moved out of our place, and drumroll please, Kelly and them are getting a divorce. Finally, Kelly did resist after Dad moved out, and she started blasting at him and me on social. And she even tagged my company in her post, LOL. But thankfully, I had already informed my social media manager of the issue, and she assured me that they would deal with it. I'd asked Father to keep off social for a while, but he logged in and then had a breakdown after seeing all the things Kelly had posted about him. I don't blame the guy. She was outright accusing him of abusing her, and in reality it was the other way around. And the sad thing was, some of the people accepted her without any question. My father started facing backlash from their friends, and this is where I decided to step in. I obviously, with the permission of my father, posted the whole story on my account and tagged her and all her friends. It was messy, and there was a lot of name-calling, but as I've said before, I'm not a little girl. Not anymore, and I can speak back. I can't explain the satisfaction I had when the majority of the people called my dad to apologize and offer him help. The last couple of months have been hard on all of us. I can't tell you how happy I am that he had the strength to move out. I never really knew the extent of abuse he suffered, but in recent years, Kelly has been successful in isolating him, from his support system. First me, then his friends, then relatives, and she was sharp enough to do it discreetly. But alas, the truth did come out in the end. Dad is now in extreme therapy and is trying to make amends for people he lost over the years. I got to his place every now and then, and I can finally see my dad coming back to life. Oh, Kelly, on the other hand, moved out of the house and town after her whole facade was lifted. People in this town chit-chat, and Kelly gave them a lot of reasons. Anyways, she could not handle the excommunication and moved away to God knows where. I wish I could say I was there when she got served. But I can only imagine her face, and it might make me a bad person, but I'm glad that she's getting out of our lives. Anyways, that's it for my stupid, crazy life. My marriage life is going great, and I'm starting a new higher-paying job, so yay me. Thanks to anyone who messaged me or sent me cute replies. I'll remember you guys. Lastly, please look around your circle and look at the signs. We often never know when someone's going through abuse at home until it's too late. It's never too late to leave.